Alrighty, goobers, listen up. I'm gonna need y'all to take out a piece of paper, and I'm also gonna need you guys to take out a pen too. If you guys need to pause this video just for a sec to gather everything together, no worries, right? We're just gonna be doing a light exercise together, okay? Ready? Cool, cool, alright, it's gonna be pretty short. So I want you to write down as many possible obstacles or opportunities you can think of that are within the realm of reality, right? Get as many as you can. They don't even have to be things that you've personally done yourself. Just anything that you know is going to be within the realm of reality, right? Okay, got it, got it. Great. Okay, so the next step, right? I want you to do is look for all the reasons why these topics are unimpressive. Maybe they're cringe or just anything bad, right? Like just you name it, right? Now, for a good number of you guys, not everyone, but a good chunk of y'all, right? You'll actually notice that it's actually far easier to come up with reasons why topics suck rather than actually sounding good, right? Or coming up with anything that sounds good. And this is actually because of the anxious mind, all right? Which, by the way, is very much afraid and very much unwilling to accept the reality that college rejection is actually possible, right? It's not willing to accept that it has a proclivity to conjure reasons, no matter how dumb or asinine, why your essay is probably dumb, right? Not because it's actually dumb, right? It's not actually anything wrong with your topics, but because it's anxious, all right? In other words, it's going to be your anxiety masquerading as logic and reason, and it's going to essentially persuade you that anything that you say is bad, right? So here's a good example of this, all right? Let's say that if you come across an attractive man, woman or person, whatever your preference, right? You'll notice that your insecurity will raise red flags that you see in yourself that you didn't even knew existed, right? So, for example, like, oh God, I must be looking so cringy, or oh man, my hair probably looks dumb, or man, she's probably gonna think me playing badminton is so nerdy and dumb and geeky, right? Ugh, right? It's like, there's a plethora of reasons why, many of which are not really founded and are just figments of your anxiety, right? And these all are going to be raising false alarms, right? I wanted to illustrate this because it's a good number of my own students and clients that have been talking about how they always struggle because they're never really satisfied with any topic they come up with, right? They'd erase everything they say because even though it starts off sounding pretty good, the anxious mind essentially dictates the next morning, wow, this is not good enough, right? This is bad, this is cringy, so on and so forth, right? And so, like, dude, right? Remember, the anxious mind is gonna engage in self-sabotage. Okay, you're gonna be shooting yourself in the foot, wasting your time, erasing everything you write, because nothing you do will ever be good enough. Now, you might be asking, right? Like, how do you know so many people who go through this mental trap, right? And oh God, right? So, a little bit of background, right? I'm Bagpipe, right? I've been doing college consulting for 7 years now. If you haven't seen my videos already, this is an introduction, right? My job is primarily to judge college essays, but I do all sorts of education consulting across the board. I helped a plethora of students get accepted into some of the top universities in the nation, like Harvard, Princeton, Cornell, UPenn, and MIT. And I've also helped students get into all of the UC schools, some of the most coveted including Cal, LA, San Diego, so on and so forth, right? Okay, with that out of the way, right, let's get right to how to write UC PIQ 4, okay? So it's going to be describe how you take advantage of an educational opportunity or work to overcome an educational barrier that you faced. Okay, number one, barriers often equal opportunities, right? Okay, so this is going to be off to a weird start, right? But I'm going to explain. So most of the advice you're going to get online explores UC PIQ 4 in the perspective of either educational barriers or educational opportunity. But what a lot of people forget is that your educational barriers can also serve as your educational opportunities, right? They can both exist at the same time, right? So here's an example, right? Let's say you weren't let's say you weren't the brightest tool in the shed, right, in sophomore year, because maybe you missed homework, you were too lazy to get your work done, right, so on and so forth, right? But you actually had an upward trend in your academic performance from sophomore to junior year, right? You earned this upward trend from the struggle that was having to attend mandatory office hours during school breaks to finish your tasks, right? The barrier of enforced work and mandatory office hour sessions during breaks was something you had to endure and struggle through. But like, these are opportunities because they're blessings in disguise, right? Like, it's like taking IB courses, right? Like, yeah, these things are hellish, right? Realistically, you're probably doing like 2 minutes of sleep per day or something, right? But certainly, it's an opportunity that prepares you for having true discipline like no other candidate, right? And you're going to be prepared for other challenging roads ahead. Like, for example, the other IB, right? Which, yeah, okay, kind of dark, but you kind of get the point, right? So, yeah. Number 2, right? Try cross-pollinating from UC PIQ 3. Okay, so if you haven't checked out the previous video on UC PIQ 3, I recommend you check it out. Anyway, one of the really great things you can do is actually migrate some of the themes and ideas, such as the skills and talents, from your UC PIQ 3 into your UC PIQ 4. This is because you can achieve an interesting voice with a similar constellation of ideas throughout your essay. You're not really copy and pasting or anything, right? But you're just essentially sharing similar themes and motifs across the board, right? So they all have some congruency. This essay is going to resonate in a more unified unit where they build off of each other rather than sounding like like segregated, completely different parts with no relation, right? So here's going to be an example, okay? Let's say your talent or skill for PIQ 3 was learning to forgive yourself for past mistakes, right? So let's also say that for PIQ 4, it was about being part of a robotics team, right? That just has very, very little funding compared to other competing schools, which is usually the case for like a lot of schools, right? Usually your school is going to have like very little, and the other school is going to have like a gajillion dollars worth of 3D printers and like machinery and whatnot, right? So yeah, obviously what you create is likely going to fall short of expectations compared to what they have, right? But this, like, I think y'all robotics kids know where this is going. Dear Lord. The barrier that is low funding from a low income program is also an opportunity, right? To think outside the box. It's an unexpected byproduct of being like like a brokey, right? But like it's so cool though, right? Like if you think about it, your skill of self-forgiveness from PIQ 3 can qualify PIQ 4 because it implies that you'll have someone who actually really fits for an entrepreneurial setting, right? Like the idea of self-forgiveness and also the creativity that comes with it, it actually fits perfectly, right? If you're an engineering and entrepreneurial kind of person, right? Realistically, you're going to be someone who doesn't fear the challenges that present themselves to you, right? And you're going to be seeing the opportunities that you can tackle, and you could forgive yourself and brush yourself up despite, like falling apart here and there, right? Which is going to be natural for entrepreneurship, right? Got it? Great. Okay, so number 3, right? Don't use this for making excuses. Okay, this is going to be an important one, so listen up, all right? I get that in school, things aren't fair, right? People get cut below the knees every once in a while. And, honestly, I think I could even be the first one to admit it, right? I think there's a lot of people that are just really unjustly biased against students across the board, right? I used to work as a TA for a lot of English teachers back in school, and just honestly, like a lot of male students got the short end of the stick when it came to essays, right? It didn't matter if you were an ELD, regular English, AP Lang, or AP Lit, right? Sometimes people just get the short end of the stick, and it just happens, right? But the thing is, admissions officers need to trust you. And frankly, in the current admissions climate where grade inflation is rampant and fake extracurriculars are everywhere, why would they, right? Like, they often think most of the applications are written by goobers, right? I've seen a lot of people use UC PIQ 4 as a space to justify making dishonest excuses for their lower performance. And realistically, it's very easy to tell when people are doing this. Instead, if you had an educational barrier that made things difficult for you, the key is to accept as much responsibility as possible. This means that you're someone who's capable of admitting when you've screwed up, or maybe you just struggle to get through things, right? Like, just you could be honest about it, right? The key to discussing lower performance or struggles in UC PIQ 4 is to make sure you even have admissions officers trust you in the first place, right? Accepting responsibility and showing that you're someone who isn't going to settle for excuses is the best way to really make yourself stand out from the other students who are making excuses, right? Besides, your AOs aren't stupid, right? They can typically sniff out excuses a lot better than most students, right? Plus, we mentioned this in the previous video, right? Your weaknesses can later be leveraged as your strengths, right? You just got to be creative. Okay, cool. So, rule number 4, all right? Translate experiences so they understand from your shoes, okay? All right, this is going to be a tricky one, but this is actually super important, so listen up. Not everyone's opportunities or barriers are really made the same. Even if you had a barrier in robotics and there are robotics competitions across the board, no one's experiences is made the same. Some of y'all had bad advisors, bad funding, so on and so forth, right? And not only that, no one person interprets the experience in the same way. Even if you have a similar experience with a lack of funding in robotics like another person did, it doesn't mean the way you guys describe it will be exactly the same. In fact, that unique quality to every experience brings up a strange question, right? How on earth are our admissions officers supposed to empathize with our unique experiences, with educational opportunities, if everyone is their own unique person, right? It's kind of hard, no? Your goal, therefore, is to make sure you can translate the emotions and feelings in your experience in a manner such that your AOs can actually feel like they're in your shoes. Okay, so here's an example, right? Let's say you're an aspiring business student, right? You want to get into top programs like Wharton, Dyson, Haas, all that good stuff, right? Being the good student you are, you want to create an extracurricular with people where you start a small business. Now, oh god, jeez, this is a classic, all right? Everyone sucks at their job, all right? Like, dude, you actually start to realize that starting a business is harder than you thought because no one knows what the hell they're doing. And you'll actually soon realize that as a business owner, whether you're the president of FBLA or you're president of whatever club it is, you'll realize very quickly that people can slow down and even make your progress worse, right? Now, the great thing about these obstacles is that you'll notice these experiences have patterns and common themes that other people can relate to. Make your experience with teammates contributing little to nothing something that everyone can empathize with using their own experiences. Use details that everyone can relate to. For instance, you have to tell everyone to stop as you clean up after everyone's backwards progress. Or the dread you feel when you realize delegating tasks to other people would just mean more unnecessary work for yourself since everyone is too slow. You could even talk about how you don't even want to sound too mean, but you're stuck because you're personally frustrated with how hard it is, but you still need to keep a level head. You could even talk about how businesses need to make last-minute pivots due to unexpected challenges, and that leads your project to looking sort of silly and goofy, but ultimately kind of working, right? These are all incredible details that, when explained with imagery, can really help your admissions officers empathize with your experience. Just make sure any details you provide aren't too harsh on others, right? Even if the people you're talking about in this example are goobers, there's a level of professionalism demanded in all of these essays. So don't be too mean or anything like that, okay? Anyway, that's about it for UC PIQ 4. If you need help with the process or you're really just unsure of how to write your UC PIQs or really if you just need anything regarding college admissions help in general, feel free to let me know, all right? You could reach out through the email in the description box below. And that's about it. See ya.